Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and today we're here with a video on soccer cards that you might need to know a little bit more about before you go ahead and buy them. For various reasons, I'm going to have about 10 cards here today. I wanted to make this more of a, cards to avoid type of video. Some of them are cards to avoid, but some of them are still cards or stickers or pogs, whatever they may be, that I still actually would want quite a lot, but for different reasons, maybe less so than I had prior. And so I didn't want to be too negative with it, but there are cards out there when you're buying any sport, anything, that can trip you up if you don't know enough. These are some of the ones that I found sort of along my soccer card journey, and I wanted to share them with you guys, hopefully to save some people the struggle and spread some information. So hopefully enjoy. If you do typically enjoy the videos, make sure to leave a like. If you need to know a little bit more before you leave a like, let's go ahead and get into the video. So as I was sort of referencing to before, this isn't a video to tell you what to buy or what not to buy. At the end of the day, hobby how you want to hobby, do whatever you want, but a little added information can't hurt. So let's go ahead and get started. First is the World Cup Story stickers. So if you've been around in the hobby for a while, you will have ran into these. We have here a 1970 Pele, an 86 Maradona, and a 74 Cruyff, some of the bigger Panini World Cup stickers. And when you're searching for these stickers and others, you'll run into the World Cup Story stickers quite a bit. As you can see here, the World Cup Story stickers are actually a box that was produced as sort of a throwback in the 90s and still can be had on eBay fairly cheap. Within these, you can get reprints of a lot of those different stickers that we just saw before, along with many, many others. Luckily enough, in this scenario, unlike some of the other ones we'll see, there is a way to actually be able to tell. On the back, it's very clear. It says World Cup Story. However, on the back, there isn't a year or anything like that associated with it. So if you're just looking and you don't understand the significance of the story, if the eBay seller isn't doing their job and putting 90s in the title, you might sort of overlook that and maybe take this as a genuine sticker. Comparatively with the Pele from 1970, as you can see here, the stickers are very easy to notice. These are the different variations. They look nothing like this, but if you weren't aware of this existing, it could definitely be something that you would buy unknowingly. The second one is a little different. This is the 2004 UK Traditions. As you can see here, we have a Cristiano Ronaldo and a Lionel Messi. For Messi, this is a bit more important of a card in the sense that it is labeled as 2004. As you can see, 2004 cards for Messi typically carry a premium, and so did this. However, as time sort of went on in the hobby and more sleuthing was done, the image within this card was not taken until March 1st of 2006. So at the earliest, it's a 2006 card, but eventually PSA did sort of admit to their mistake. As you can see, now they slab it as 2006 as it used to be 2004, thus making it a third-year card at best. However, it still pulls pretty good prices. As you can see here, the 2004 slab sold for $800, while the 2006s sold for about $500. Did that get a premium because it was slabbed as a rookie? Potentially. And it's hard to tell sometimes because there are other scenarios that we'll talk about later where cards can actually look similar but be released in different years. So, just because a card looks similar and is slabbed as 2 different years doesn't tell people necessarily that a change had occurred. Now, you can type in these cert numbers, and when you go and look up the cert, I do believe that the ones already graded will change in terms of their data, so that is a way that you can sort of protect yourself as far as I'm aware. But yeah, it certainly isn't anything anyone wants to do or should have to do. But this is a scenario where, honestly, even to this day, I think we're seeing some of the ramifications of a 2004 slab around these cards, because they used to sell for $500 to $1,000 during the boom, and they still kind of do. They haven't really been affected all that much because I think the people that are buying these aren't sort of the more common soccer folk, the people in the know. They just sort of casually have them, hold them, and don't really care much. But yeah, this one's had quite the fall from grace, and rightfully so upon further investigation. Another one that's had a huge fall has been the Pele Quigol. So this is a 1958-1959 release, or at least it was, from PSA back in the day. As you can see here, in 2016-2017, it was selling for a lot of money, anywhere from $500 in really bad condition up to the multiple thousands into the $5,000-$6,000, depending on the grade. And as time's gone on, basically it's back to those prices. It did have a decent bump during the boom, not to the same degree that other things did. Other items definitely had much bigger multiples in terms of scaling upwards, and a lot of other things are, much higher than pre-boom. This definitely not being one of them, and that's because, as you can see here, it is now a 1960, and by the slab, it is no longer a 58-59, which is a Pele rookie year release. Instead, it is now a 60, and of course, we're sort of seeing the ramifications of that now. While this is still a good Pele in my mind, the 58-59 slab being changed to a 60 had a huge impact in terms of the perception of this item, and of course, to this day, there's still 58-59 slabs floating around out there, so if you do run across them, don't treat them as a Pele Pele rookie. They are a great Pele, at least in my opinion, but not a rookie, so at least if you put a premium on that, you probably shouldn't. Then we get into some similar looking rookies here. We have the 1958 Cadet Sweets Bobby Charlton. This is a 58 and a 59 Bobby Charlton, as you can see on the front. Essentially no difference. There's a little bit of a color difference, but I think that's due to the scan. And if you had both these in person, they'd look exactly the same. However, when you look at the backs, that is sort of where everything clears itself up. On the far left here, we have a 58 release where the back is inverted and very large. The 59 release has a much smaller, condensed back, while the 60 is a bit more enlarged. I heard that the 1960 was the rarest, and I could only find, a couple of these, so as far as I'm aware, that's the 60. For sure, this is the 58 over here. This is the 59. I'm much less informed on the 60, but I think that's because it is by far the rarest. And yeah, as you can see, the 58 pretty easy to see. Now, we don't have an example here, but PSA has actually done a lot of mix-ups in terms of swapping different years onto the wrong Bobby Charltons. So there are 58s and 59 slabs, there's 59s and 58 slabs. Of course, not happening all the time, but it is noteworthy enough to at least check the back of these whenever you're buying them. And if you want to dig into Bobby Charlton even more, something along the lines of this 58 Chicks and even further, you're going to find other things of the sort. For example, here on this Chicks, it talks about him scoring a goal during his rookie season, basically the season that this was released, and it references it as last year, so it's at least a year later. I think people consider this a 1960, but again, just something to look out for. After that, we have the 1958 and 1974 Aquarela here. As you can see, the one on the right, I do actually generally think that these have a much different color scheme. They tend to have brighter blue backgrounds. They tend to be a bit more washed out in terms of the face being a lot more white, I guess. But I do think that you can generally tell from the front. Luckily enough, at least in terms of being able to decipher this for the collecting community, there is a difference on the back. So if you're buying these raw, you can very clearly see that on the right hand side there is a little bit of text here on the left of the sticker, while with the 1958 that is not the case. This was sort of just a celebratory set that they wanted to re-release. They did so, and luckily enough there is a way to be able to tell. However, had this not occurred, it might not be as easy, and I've seen a lot of times where people sort of find these on eBay and they don't quite understand that the backs are different and that this is actually a reprint. So if you started to pay rookie Pele money for what is a 74 reprint, it'd be a pretty bad time. So always check the backs of the Aquarelas if you're buying raw. I don't think I've ever seen a PSA graded one where it was in the wrong slab, but it can't hurt to just give it a check. In the same vein, we have a Bergmann rookie situation here with 1965 Franz Beckenbauer. There's also Gerd Muller, Sepp Meyer, some others in the set as well. Here we have Beckenbauer. As you can see, first, second year, both look exactly the same. Again, this one, you can't tell at all in terms of color, whatever it may be. Again, luckily in this scenario, there is a difference on the back. Unlike the 68 through 70 Vanderhoot, we don't have that in this video, but that's an example of a card that basically spanned 2 years where the back and front did not change, so you can't tell the difference. Here, luckily enough for us, we have the 65-66 on the back, on the left, and then we have 66-67 on the right, making this fairly obvious. But of course, if you weren't looking, or maybe there was enough, sort of glue residue, or maybe paper loss in the back to where you couldn't tell, that could be problematic. But if you know what you're looking for, fairly easy to figure it out. This is one that could be a whole video of itself, and if you look up USMNT soccer cards, fake stickers, you definitely find more videos on the subject, but this one is just so prevalent that it warrants being in this video, and that is fake Ronaldo stickers. So as you can see up on screen, we have 3 here. 2 of them are authentic. Take your pick on which 2 are authentic, and drum roll, all that good stuff. It is the 2 on the left, so this one here and the more saturated one in the middle. The one on the right is pretty jarring in terms of the color. It's clearly much more faded than any other copy that we see here. Same sort of tendencies on the back, and at one point in time, BGS graded a boatload of these. So between August 1st of 2020 and August 1st of 2021, there were only 15 2002 Ronaldo stickers in BGS slabs to sell. The following year, as we look, take a guess what you think that would be. It's 142. So between August 1st, 2021 and August 1st, 2022, 142 sold. And the reason being BGS graded somewhere between, I think it was 50 and 100, maybe even 125, but like 75 to 125, let's say that range. They graded a ton of these, and they all sold within a year's time. They still trade hands to this day. I would imagine a lot of people own them at some point or another, figure out that they're fake because someone tells them, and then they go to sell them, and it's just this game of hot potato where people just keep throwing them around. As you can see here, we have them both in slabs. Fairly easy to decipher, you know, kind of crazy that BGS got 100 of these within a month's time, didn't think anything about it, and didn't even look at them close enough to see that they were just totally off in terms of color. It's just brutal. But as you can see, the one on the right, really nicely centered. The one on the left is kind of off center, but that's actually good for 2002 stickers. Generally, I would say if you don't know what you're looking for, stay away from BGS stickers if you don't feel comfortable. Another good tip in terms of being able to just have a gauge as to whether or not they're fake would be that if it's 13 million or higher insert from BGS in terms of Ronaldo stickers, I would be highly suspicious. Probably 80 to 90% of them graded 13 million and beyond are fake. Those aren't solid numbers, but just my general feel. So if you see something before 13 million, that's actually fairly good, and I would feel generally comfortable. As you see, this one on the left graded 8.5 million, way before fake stickers were a thing. You can have some certainty there. Next, we have the 1995 David Beckham Raven. This is a release, as you can see here, that on eBay is priced pretty high. These were the lowest available listings, 520, 600, and 2,000 to 3,000 for PSA 10. That's not going to sell, but is listed that high. This is labeled as a David Beckham rookie, and as you can see by one of the titles here, it says numbered out of 500. On the back, it says something about there only being 500 of these printed, and so presumably a numbered David Beckham rookie that actually, I mean, at least on the front, looks kind of good, I guess. I mean, it looks kind of janky, and that's because it is, as we'll come to see, but essentially the Raven has not been graded anymore by PSA over the last 3+ years. As time went on and more people looked into this, a lot of people came to the conclusion that it was sort of a bootleg, print-on-demand fake release, and while a lot of people that are sort of focusing on that niche are aware of it, as people outside of, say, the pre-modern niche start to buy these types of cards, they might come in not knowing at all and seeing a numbered, highly priced David Beckham that actually does sell quite a bit. I was surprised when I went on the sales history. I mean, they're selling for like 300, 500, maybe even 1,000 at times, depending on the grade. And these are a card that, like we saw here, again, no longer is graded by PSA. Another sort of tell in terms of that this might be sort of weird is that when you look at the total pop, it's a pop 130. And that was in 2021. Let me bring that up here. That was in 2021. It was a pop 130. That's like sort of as the soccer boom is occurring. So if it continued to get graded to modern day, what would you think? Like 200-300 pop probably? As we saw earlier, it's a total of quote-unquote pop 500. It's 500 of them printed. So how does that make any sense? That 50 to 60% of a card released in the 90s is already graded at PSA? I would find that extremely hard to believe because there's basically no scenario where that occurs. You can look all over. Pops are always going up because of course they are. The rate at which they're going up, that's the question. But in this scenario, there's practically no way that this at least could pass. As you can see, PSA seemingly has done a pretty good job at cutting that off, but it's still getting bought and sold on eBay for pretty good prices, which of course is concerning. This one is a pretty good price as well. And again, one of the reasons that I tried to make this video a not avoid this card quote-unquote video, because there's a lot of debate that goes on around these cards even to this day. As I mentioned before, I mean, soccer's relatively new, we're finding our footing, and a lot of things are still falling into place. Given that you have releases across the globe and collectors across the globe, there's going to be a lot of ideas sort of mashing, and as you can see here, this Di Stefano has actually stopped being graded at PSA. I'm not sure when in this stretch, and during this time, some information has sort of come to light in regard to certain people's opinions on it. I'll show some stuff from the Vintage Discord, link down below. Do check it out. If you're into vintage, pre-modern, anything like that, typically it's good for conversation, but it's also good to learn. If you want to, type in some stuff into the search bar and just give a read, that's always helpful. But here we have just some stuff that I found in there on the Monte Cudine Di Stefano. So this is a rookie or early Di Stefano, but at least according to this, they're claiming that it was basically a bootleg that was made off of some earlier printings within this album. Do I know? No. Does anyone know? Probably not. But there is a decent contingent of people within Argentina that are holding pretty strong in the idea that these are not real. And without knowing any better, I can't take one side or the other, but it is information that I feel is relevant and stuff that people should know before they go and buy, a really, really nice Di Stefano. PSA in this scenario stopped grading it. We'll see if that changes over time, because there is times where PSA stops grading something and then comes back around on it, but I guess we'll have to wait and find more. And, if you're in the market or if you're searching and you see one of these out there one day, just know know that there is some question marks surrounding. And then finally, again, another scenario much like this one where, you know, you can go one way or the other in terms of what you think. This is Lionel Messi autos. So essentially here, we have 3 autos. One of them doesn't look like the other 2. Pretty easy to tell, I would say, but the one on the left is a flawless Messi auto, and then we have an Eminence and a 2018 Treble World Cup sticker. So essentially, the one on the left is the more general Messi auto that you expect to see on tons of different products throughout the years. This is true to form in terms of what you expect to see. The L is one of the dead giveaways in terms of what style of auto we're looking at. The L on the flawless is obviously going off to the left, kind of loops back around. Kind of reminds me of the little open part of a needle, but it's very distinct and very clean. And what I would say generally on the first auto is that it flows very well. I think all of the movements are sort of in circles. There's not a lot of straight lines. Then if you look on the 2 on the right, essentially you'll see that the L's are nothing like the original L that we saw in Flawless. Instead, they go to the right and then they jerk back to the left and then go back over to the right in just a fashion that you don't see at all on the other L. And then if you want to break down other parts of it, I mean, the Leo, in terms of what you see on the ones on the right, the lines are much more straight than what you see on the one on the left. And I'm not an autograph expert, of course, but, you know, you just look at them and it does make you wonder, right? I personally don't feel comfortable with the autos on the right. Could they have been done by Messi? Sure. Maybe they're just in a scenario where he can't do his nice autos. Maybe he's just trying to get them over with. He's trying to do something else and he's just sort of going crazy with them. But they only appear for a couple years, and to me, they just look so different that I don't feel good about it. But at the same time, I know other people feel fine with it. And at the end of the day, they are on Panini cards where Panini claims that they are legit, so they do have that sort of backing in that regard. You can take it for what you will, but I do think that this is at least worthy of discussion. If you're going to spend big money on a Messi auto, you should probably know what they look like and at least have a gauge in terms of how you should feel in regards to the auto you're looking at. But yeah, that's going to be it for these cards and giving you a little added information before you go buying. Hopefully it helped. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. Any cards that you want others to look out for, or maybe something you got from the video, would love to hear about it down below in a comment. If you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.